Our Prime Minister was absolutely right when he condemned the Hamas attack on Israel as a terrorist act. By definition, any unlawful violent act or intimidation by anyone, be it a state, an organization, or even an individual, if that action is specially directed against civilians in the pursuit of political objectives, then it's a terrorist act. Hamas wants to liberate Palestinians from the stranglehold of Israel, and to achieve that goal, it resorted to wanton violence last Saturday. It was a clear terrorist act, and our Prime Minister was right in condemning it. But the question arises, why our Prime Minister's lips were sealed when Benjamin Netanyahu and his band of gangsters had launched repeated attacks against the civilian population in both West Bank and Gaza Strip, just to consolidate the Jewish control over the Arab territory? The death and destruction that those raids have caused in the Palestinian homeland are clearly terrorist acts. But look at our government's tame response to terrorists, such as Netanyahu and company. Either our government was silent, or it said that the Israeli attack on Palestinians was an internal matter we are not concerned with. This is the double face of our government. Look at the statement of Saudi Arabia, which is closely linked to the US and to India, and which is now inching closer to even Israel. It has issued a balanced statement in response to the current Hamas strike. This is a statement that a self-proclaimed Vishwaguru like India should take a lesson from. What did Saudi Arabia say? It said that it was concerned about the unfortunate attack on Israeli civilians, but it also raised the issue of the two-state solution in West Asia, the denial of which by Netanyahu has led to simmering discontent among Palestinians. But what did India do? Of course, there can be no justification of violence by Hamas to give expression to the Palestinian discontent. Just as there can be no justification of violence by the likes of Netanyahu to keep the Palestinians subjugated forever. There is a moral equivalence there. It's our duty to condemn in unequivocal terms whenever anyone indulges in a terrorist act. We must not distinguish whether they are the killers employed by a terrorist group like Hamas, or they are the killers engaged by a terrorist leader like Netanyahu. Selective condemnation of terrorism exposes our government's hypocrisy, exposes us to global ridicule. Take another case. Take the case of Vladimir Putin's unilateral invasion of Ukraine, causing immeasurable loss of life and property of the ordinary Ukrainian people. It was clearly a terrorist act by a slew of criminals at the behest of Putin. But what was India's response? There was no condemnation of Putin. Our Prime Minister issued a bland statement. We want a negotiated settlement to the crisis. And that was hailed by the cheerleaders of our ruling dispensation as a middle path. If a middle path is our policy, we could have followed the same approach when it came to the current West Asian crisis. India could have expressed concern over the attack on the civilians in Israel, but in the same breath, India could have invoked the two-state formula which it had espoused for decades to resolve the Palestinian crisis. He could have said that there was a need for negotiated settlement to put an end to this cycle of violence and counter-violence, just as it had said when Putin's gang had bombarded the civilian settlements in Ukraine. But no. Our Prime Minister was quick only to condemn the Hamas. Not a word came out of his Twitter handle that there was a need for negotiated settlement. Just think of it. Was the devastation caused by Putin's monsters on the Ukrainian citizens that fateful February night last year any less severe than what Hamas did to the Israeli citizens last Saturday? No. Then why is our government dubbing only the Hamas as a terrorist but not Putin? Why is it that our Prime Minister is warmly embracing terrorist masterminds like Putin and Netanyahu but unilaterally condemns Hamas? Is that the signature diplomacy of a Vishwaguru? It's a question we should ponder upon.